Hey everyone, welcome back to the Tribe of Nerds, Survivor 1 through 50. Shane, Mike, and I are here to talk about Survivor South Pacific Season 23. We're here to talk about the return of Ozzy and Coach, Coach's Survivor legacy, and more with all the new players that were in this season. So to kick it off, why did you guys want to discuss Survivor South Pacific?
For me, well, one, I think it's just a good transition from like doing Redemption Island, which last week I talked about why I like that season. So I feel like, you need to do this one too, and just watch them in order because for whatever reason, like this one has so much influence from the last season. Like all the twists are the same. I mean, the pagonging, the returning player getting to the end and dominating. All of that. So I just feel like it goes together well, but also coming into the season in the real time, like I thought Coach was a joke. Like he's a TV character. I mean, I didn't love him, but I love to not like him, if that makes any sense. But this just completely changed my perception of Coach. Like I was rooting for him. I wanted him to win. I never thought that would have been possible. I never thought I'd think that way. So just like, because of those feelings, I definitely wanted to rewatch and see like how Coach completely changed his legacy.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike?
Yeah, I think for me, as my co-name there says, Sophie was kind of a game changer for me. I think she was a player that was super strategic, super under the radar, and I have been a fan of her ever since. And then watching her come back for Winners at War, but also like my and I hate to say it, my dislike of Ozzy kind of made me want to talk about this as well, because he is going to be in the Survivor 50, and I do want to just have this kind of, I hope that I can regain like some love for Ozzy and why he's there, but just watching him kind of spiral in each season and like make weird decisions that ends up costing him in his own game, it's just kind of fun to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely agree with both you guys. I mean, the fact that you guys both brought up each returning player that will be seen again is really, really interesting to track their journeys.
And I feel the same about Ozzy. Like in Cook Islands, it was like he was fine to watch. I mean, he played well, and then he just gets worse and worse and worse and worse every time. Like doesn't offer anything to do. And like I really didn't need to see him here. And in my opinion, he almost made the season worse. Like I feel like if it was someone else, especially like who it potentially was supposed to be, being Philip against Coach, like would have been insane to watch. But yeah. And also I should bring up another reason I like the season is Cochran. Like Cochran here isn't amazing. Obviously he comes back and does way better things, but he was the first one that I saw and I was like, okay, I kind of see myself here. Not fully, but at least like getting closer to seeing it. So I really enjoyed Cochran.
100%. Yeah, I'm sure we'll get into Cochran a lot. I mean, he is the next step in like the Survivor nerd, like us. And so it was really cool to see someone like that. Do I agree with some of Cochran's moves? Absolutely not. I think some of them are pretty bad. I mean, obviously the big one is, I understand why it was made, but we'll get into it. It definitely wasn't good. And to Ozzy, I mean, I do like Ozzy's journey, but I do agree every single time Ozzy's returns do diminish. And like on a rewatch, especially here, it's like Cook Island still remains his best game. Like I feel like it's hard to say like any game is better when he goes home with an idol in his pocket the second time. Here he's voted out 3 times in one season, albeit one of those is he gets himself voted off to go to Redemption Island, but still. And then Game Changers, he goes out saying that they better catch a bunch, good luck catching a bunch of fish or whatever he says on his 4th appearance. Yeah, so I'm sure we'll get into that. But for me, I have a connection to this season, so it's the first season where I got to speak to a player. So Jim Rice from this season, who I think is a player who has a lot of potential. He could have done great things. He should have returned, and he was on the second chance ballot and then just didn't make it on because I think the negative reception to this era of Survivor prevented him from coming on again. But so my connection to Jim, so my older sister used to live in Denver, Colorado, and her and her friend were on their way to a Michigan State euchre tournament. My family's a big Michigan State family, because we used to live near there, and my dad went to college there. And so my sister and her friend were walking, in Denver, Colorado, to this euchre tournament, and someone stops them by the street as like, "Hey, are you guys on your way to the euchre tournament?" And they're like, "Yeah." So they got in the car with this stranger, get to the euchre tournament. Turns out that this was Jim Rice who drove them to the euchre tournament. And then someone said, this was after South Pacific had finished airing, and someone was like, "Oh, you were on Survivor." And my sister knew I was really into Survivor at that point. I'd just gotten into the show and like binged through the previous seasons. And so she's like, "Oh, my brother really, really loves Survivor. Would you call him?" So he agreed to call me. And so I got to talk to Jim for probably 5 to 10 minutes or something like that. And so he talked about the season, and just like, I'm trying to remember because it's been like 14 years since I talked to Jim, but I do remember vividly I asked him about Coach and Ozzy. He had very positive things to say about Ozzy, interestingly enough, but he said Coach was delusional. So
Oh no.
I remember that pretty vividly. But and I know like what my sister had said is he talked about like he was giving fans like a tour around his house with all his like South Pacific memorabilia from the show. And so I did read Jim's quarantine questionnaire as well, and I think he said he stopped watching after Second Chances, actually, and he now has a family. So I don't know, it's very, very interesting reading that. And I'd love to get Jim on the What If interviews, Shane, as well. I mean, we've definitely been trying to find him. We have not had any luck. So if anybody listening knows how to contact Jim Rice, please let us know. But yeah, that's my story with Jim. So
Is the what if Cochran doesn't flip?
Probably, yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But I'm very interested to talk about this with you guys and everything, because I do think if things go differently like that moment, I do think Jim goes a lot farther, has actually a pretty good chance to win if Savaii gets the numbers. So, but yeah, let's get into the season. So the season kicks off. We immediately get into the helicopter ride. We get Coach and Ozzy. Both of them have never played together before. They've just both played twice. And so you're like, okay, what's the connection here between Coach and Ozzy? At least Boston Rob and Russell had the connection in Heroes versus Villains. Right. So it's very, very interesting knowing that Philip was almost there instead of Ozzy, which would have made way more sense. And so then we get our new players. We get introduced to Cochran, I believe. We get introduced to Brandon Hantz, saying he's Russell Hantz's nephew, which apparently is going to be his profession on his Byron. Oh my God!
What is this? Why is this happening?
Yeah, I remember this was like a big thing back then of like, oh, they got Russell Hantz's nephew on the show. Like, is he going to be the exact same as Russell? In many ways, yes. In some ways he's very different as a player, but in terms of like his actions on the island, I do feel like he's very, very similar to his uncle.
Yeah, and it seems like Russell was just in his shadow the whole time. Like, he came out here not to play Survivor, but to follow in Russell's footsteps, good or bad. And like here, he's like, oh yeah, I want to change the legacy. Like, his whole mission almost seemed like it wasn't to play a good game. It wasn't to win. It was to change perceptions.
Yeah.
I don't think he understood the game. And I think, when you go into something like that with intentions of like grandiose, and I don't think he realized that it was that kind of intention, you're not playing the game, and you're not doing the things that you need to do to satisfy the intention you're trying to do to begin with. And so I think that going in wanting to change the legacy, he ended up making it kind of worse because he's not playing the game. He's just targeting people for random reasons and then befriending them afterwards, and it's just a whole mess.
Yeah. Oh, it was bad. It only gets worse when he comes back.
Yeah, the way Brandon is targeting him, I'm sure we're going to get to the situation with Michaela, because it's pretty disgusting, honestly, how he treats her. But Yeah, I believe we also got a confessional from Rick Nelson, who I believe got on the show through Sears, like Jimmy T did in Nicaragua, and Rick did not get anything in the edit. He was the purple edit person.
I read Sophie also got on from Sears.
I think I read that too. I don't know if it was like, I thought I read somewhere like she applied for it, but she didn't get on through Sears. But it could be wrong. But I know I did see that she at least applied for the Sears thing. So, but yeah, so the helicopter lands, they see Coach and Ozzy, and so then we immediately get into the hero duel between Coach and Ozzy, which is, you know, climbing the pole, digging under the beam, and then or the log, and then solving that puzzle. Towers of Hanoi, I believe, is the name of the puzzle. And so, like, yeah, you're moving. I've done this puzzle before. It's a very complicated puzzle in some ways. Like, it can get very complicated.
Either these two players are puzzle people, so it's interesting they have to do a complicated puzzle.
Yeah, it's very funny. Like, they both need help from their teams.
Yeah. Well, and I like how the reactions from the teams were so different. Like, one team was getting frustrated while the other team was far more supportive. And so like that kind of starts the initial narrative of the two teams is, you know, Ozzy is so beloved and like accepted by his group, whereas Coach is like immediately there's confessional saying like, nope, don't want him. We need to get rid of him. So very interesting dynamic started right from the start from that challenge.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then it completely reverses for both teams, which is very funny, but
which is crazy.
Yeah. And so then Christine also, we have her calling Coach a temporary player, which again is the same thing with Francesca last season. Why do you come out there and start like going after the returning player so publicly? It's very silly.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, part of me almost wonders, are these people like playing up for the camera? Because this was a time in Survivor where I feel like they got a lot of people that were, you know, you got people that wanted to play the game and win, but you got people that just wanted to be a character and have TV time. And I almost wonder if this was that. And like, same with Cochran's move. Like, I almost wonder if part of it was that.
Could be. Yeah. It's just very odd because, like, obviously this is going to be why Christine gets sent to Redemption Island. Like, Coach is not going to forget this, and I definitely think like her doing that and then going off looking for the idol kind of unites Coach with Upolu. Like, I also just wonder when we get to that like those five sitting on the beach is like, where are the other four? Like, why are they not there that night?
Collecting firewood.
I guess
we're looking for the idol apparently.
Yeah, Christina's probably looking for the idol, probably her and Stacey, and I don't know where Edna and Michaela were, but I don't know. It's just very odd. But yeah, we get to the camps, and so like immediately, you know, Coach is like ingratiating himself with you know, changing his perception. And then you have Ozzy once again trying to get with like the women, and like I do find that interesting. Like, I know, like we talked about Russell last season, always getting with the cute girls. I feel like Ozzy definitely to a lesser degree always wants to get with the cute girls for other reasons.
Right. Yeah.
Ozzy.
We'll leave it at that.
Some of the people that unfortunately were flops for me, but two of my favorites, I think, of this season were initially Semhar, and then there was Papa Bear. So Papa Bear is still my favorite. Love him to death. I think he's the most adorable thing in the world. Semhar, immediately I was like, oh, I love her. Like I don't remember her much from the season because this is now 14 years. And I'm like, okay, like she's gonna get like, I know she doesn't make merge, but like she gets far, right? And then the interesting parts of Semhar start coming out, and I was like, okay, I understand why I don't remember her now, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's. I think before the season, I remember vividly because I was watching Jeff's cast assessments as well back in the day, and I remember Jeff said Semhar was going to be the first boot. Like, I'm pretty sure he called it.
Yeah, I mean the spoken word was beautiful. It just wasn't in the right context of the moment, and the edit was actually very, very on point with like how funny it was. But like at the same time, it's like then there's that whole like kind of prayer storyline that starts to kind of develop with Coach's group, and so like from the very beginning, like that's Semhar's religion, right? Is this idea of like, you know, doing spoken word to like get herself centered, and I thought it was a really interesting way to kind of start the redemption part of the game.
Yeah, I agree. It's I don't know, like Semhar has some like memorable lines. I just remember the Redemption Island line of the poem, the honey, my boo, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then they go over to Coach and Ozzy, and they're just like, what is going on?
Yeah, and I mean, maybe we didn't get enough context, but I feel like if you're gonna do a spoken word poem for the moment, like, why that one? Like, it doesn't really fit the theme whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, I'd like to say, like, I think it's beautiful that she's out there and saying the spoken word and whatnot. I definitely think she definitely could have picked other spoken word poems.
Yeah, but I do appreciate like the different walks of life people are coming from and professions. Like to see a spoken word person, and you know, next season to see a stand-up comic, and like the prior season, you know, a federal agent ? Like it's interesting to bring all of these together versus now it's just like the same person. They just look different.
Yeah. Yeah, I was always, at the beginning, I thought I was more of a Savaii guy than an Upolu guy. I don't think that was changing with how Upolu was going about things. Obviously, that is going to be the dominant tribe, but, you know, I don't know. I feel like I liked more of the personalities on Savaii. I thought they were more interesting.
I don't know. I found like Savaii, and it's probably just how they focused on Cochran in the edit, but I didn't love it because they were like the cool kids tribe in a way, and kind of like ostracizing him. And
that's true.
I mean, we'll get to it, but like if we had a least favorite, Whitney has got to be up there.
Yeah, we'll get to her. I will say, besides Keith and Whitney, and like maybe like I do think there's some interesting personalities, like Papa Bear, as Mike brought up, Jim, obviously, Cochran, Don,
right.
So like I do think like those are some of the more interesting personalities, and then unfortunately,
Papa Bear was great because he gave a lot of content in a short amount of time because it's only there like 3 episodes.
Right. Yeah. So then on Upolu, we should obviously bring up, you know, the actions of Brandon Hantz. So Brandon starts targeting Michaela because she's attractive. She's poverty, as he says it, as he says Parvati's name. I think he also calls her Delilah, which I'm not really sure what that is, but
I have no idea. But yeah, he does call her that.
Yeah, so he is basically mad because he's getting sexually frustrated by Michaela being attractive, and he's a married man. By the way, Brandon Hantz was only 19 at the time of filming this, which is ridiculously young, and he's already like married. Like he's still exiting his teenage years. Like
I found this like immediately problematic, and I guess the 2025 version of me was watching it and just being like, how do you publicly talk about somebody as a problem because of your own issues, right? Like he had the issue with her, like the whatever it was, right? This attraction to her. And it's like, you need to vote her out so that you don't do something wrong, so that you don't cheat on your wife. Like I was very like frustrated and like immediately with him. This idea that somebody shouldn't play the game because you are gonna, you know, I don't know. I'm not a Brandon fan. I'm not a Hantz fan at all. But Brandon just like immediately, like I was like done with him already.
I don't think any of us are Brandon Hantz fans. All right, so we then do get to our first meeting, and so this is the throwing the coconuts in the net. a lot of these challenges this season have to do with the coconut, which again, we're going to get to the merge tribe name later, but they really do focus on coconuts as the theme of this season. Yeah. So Semhar fails to shoot the coconuts in the basket after saying that she would be good at it. And then Savaii does lose the challenge, and you do get Jim miming reactions behind Semhar, which is really funny. And then she's like, oh, I made a mistake stepping in this challenge. Jim's like, well, I made a mistake when I forgot to buy milk.
Yeah, and then she's like, I feel sort of bad, and then
sort of bad, yeah,
loses it.
Yeah, that was the line, yeah. So sort of bad. So then she loses it at camp to Jim, which is hilarious. Does not help her case.
No, and Jim, I think is, and I love Jim's arc. I think that there are some moments that I think he could have done differently, but like this particular moment, I think was starting like his mentality and my love of him, because he had a love of the game and he had a love of, making things make sense. And he was really good at talking through with people how to make the right decision. But I think this also like sparked this like passion in him that continued on through the rest of pre-merge. And I think Jim said what nobody else was ready to say or willing to say yet, because they were all still getting to know each other. Jim was like, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to say what I need to say.
Yeah, I love him just being outspoken there. And also, like, I do think Jim recognizes, like, I know it's maybe not explicitly stated as much, but I do believe, I think it's kind of alluded to of, like, they notice that Semhar and Ozzy are starting to get close. Like, I think it's the same thing we're going to see with Elise in a couple of episodes, where everybody notices Ozzy's getting close to the girls, so they're going to try to split up Ozzy from the girls, which I think makes a lot of sense. It's just very interesting. Ozzy's initial strategy completely falls flat because everybody notices it.
Yeah, so, that's Ozzy. Like, he's never known for being strategic, so when he has a strategy, everyone notices it.
Yeah.
And it fails.
Yeah. So we get to the first tribal council, and so you get Cochran fighting for his life. We've obviously kind of, set up Cochran doesn't really fit in with this tribe. His translucent skin, he does have like the Baywatch moment where he like runs slowly into the ocean. I thought that was funny. Yeah, Cochran fights for his life. I don't think he necessarily, I think he definitely doesn't fight as well as he could have. I definitely think like he got himself in a little bit of hot water with what he was saying, but it didn't matter because Semhar had already made herself such a big target to get rid of. So,
but yeah, one thing with Cochran too is I feel like they set him up to be a certain like character arc, because I had read, he's never worn a sweater vest in his life. They made him wear that. So like, when they're making you wear that, you feel like you have to live up to it, and they want you to be this certain thing, so you have to do it because, you're at the mercy of the producers here. So I feel like this was like the era of Survivor where they were trying to shape things a little bit like that. So like Cochran's game, he can't really play the way he wants to because he's being molded a certain way, and now he feels like he has to live up to that, but he doesn't know how to live up to that because that's not him. And like, how do you balance these two things? Like, playing how you want to and like trying to be this character that the producers want you to be.
Right.
Yeah, I think Cochran is he starts off very self-aware. Like, he's very aware of his place in the tribe. He's aware of his own kind of flaws coming into the game, but he's also not shy about telling everybody, I'm also a student of the game. Like, I understand the mechanics of the game. My social part is a little bit, not where it needs to be, but I get the game and I understand the game. And he was not shy sharing that. So to be fair to him moving forward in the game, they kind of kept giving him more and more opportunities to prove that he understood the game. He wasn't always like following through with that, but like he did have multiple opportunities, and he somehow was able to either make somebody else a bigger target, or somebody else made themselves a bigger target, and he was able to just kind of like skate through.
Yeah. Yeah, goodbye, Samhar. Then next episode, Cochran's trying his best to fit back in with the tribe. And I think we need to go over to Upolu because now Brandon's going to start making up lies about Michaela. And this is going to end up where he starts telling Christine and Stacey, like, gun for Michaela and all this other stuff. And so they are going to lose the next immunity and go to tribal. And this is where we get Brandon Hantz's first blow up of the season, where he blows up every single tribal council, but still somehow lasts till final 5.
And somehow is going to win potentially, which I still don't understand.
I don't know how.
I think it's interesting too, because like whenever they go into a tribal, Coach does a decent job of coddling Brandon into tribal. And then Brandon still blows up every tribal, right? And then it always flashes back to Coach with the eye roll or the, oh no, not again. Like I thought we talked about this. I thought we dealt with this. So it was just a really fun dynamic kind of between Coach and Brandon. And has Brandon revealed to Coach yet that he is Russell Hantz's nephew?
I think Coach is the first one he reveals to. Yeah.
So it's just an interesting dynamic of like Coach being like, okay, do I play with this kid, knowing full well who his uncle is and who screwed me over in the past, or do I work with him to show Russell like what my game is and what my story is? And I think that was an interesting direction for Coach to go in. I'd be curious to know if he regrets it, 2020 hindsight.
Yeah. I don't know. Like it is interesting too. One of my favorite edits as we'll go is where he's talking about how he sees Russell, he sees the demons in Brandon, and you get flashed to like Brandon walking like Russell. Like it's really, really funny to watch that. But yeah, so tribal council comes out that Brandon's been gunning for Michaela, made up the lies, and still basically Christine and Stacey get called out. And we're going to lose Christine to Redemption Island. We will kind of talk about Christine's run on Redemption Island here. I mean, she does a good job. I actually would have loved to see Christine make it back into the game had Ozzy not made the decision that he does. Right. Unfortunately, Ozzy robbed us of, I think, a lot more drama.
But that would have changed so much in Survivor history, because if that happened, it's likely Cochran going, and then he doesn't come back and become what he is now.
True.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What was the? I'm sorry, I can't remember. What was the challenge that Ozzy beat Christine in?
The one where you have to build like the sticks, like wrap up and like get the keys.
Oh, yeah. So I don't know. I think it's throw. We'll talk about it when we get to it, though. But I think it's a throw up between Cochran and Christine there.
Yeah, that's one where it's definitely anybody can win that. So, but yeah. So Christine goes. We are going to say goodbye to Papa Bear this next episode. Unfortunately, Dawn.
Yeah, he had some good lines in this episode where he's like, Dawn, it's real. And then when he has like the fake idol and he's talking in a confessional, he says something like, just vote me out, I'm an ass.
I also loved the moment where he just, I think it was Elise, he just like runs by her and runs to go look for the idol. And it's like so awkward and so obvious. And I loved every moment of it.
Yeah, and she's like, Papa Bear just came in a full sprint, and Papa Bear doesn't run.
Right, Papa Bear doesn't run.
Yeah, and then he comes back like smiling and like tells Jim and Cochran, I found the idol.
So fun.
Yeah, I would have loved to see more Papa Bear. Like, I thought he was a really fun personality. Yeah, we are going to get another tribal council where once again Cochran's being targeted, although Papa Bear does throw a vote on Jim, which is interesting. But yeah, Papa Bear is going to get voted out here. Any other interesting stuff before we move on?
No, because I think we're about to get into some interesting stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Brandon has a quote in this episode that I was just like, ooh. He goes, keep me out of the drama. And I'm just like, Brandon, you are the drama. Like, what?
Yeah, is this also where he reveals to the whole tribe that he's Russell's nephew? Like he takes off his shirt.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And this is where
then
Sophie's
Stacey is just like blam.
yes, blam. And then Sophie's like, she correctly identifies that Brandon's hiding something earlier in the game, so she knows something's going on. And then
one way to tell is I think it was like episode 1 or 2. He's like in the water and he has his shirt only over like his shoulder. I'm like, there's something wrong here.
Yeah, that's very awkward. I don't know. Like I'm just shocked that this alliance held together with Brandon as long as they did, because this shouldn't have held. And in a lot of other seasons, Brandon would have been cut loose a long time ago.
Well, I think it says a lot towards Sophie's game, because she was the one that was adamantly wanting to kind of take him out at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, her allowing that to happen let her kind of skate through a lot of like that middle game.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she clocks Brandon so quickly. And I think that's the part that I loved about her the most, is like she was making like these little like observations throughout the game, but not making herself vocal or out there against those people. She was really doing it very much in confessionals.
And part of it too is, I think, as we mentioned, like there's a lot of influence from the last season, and especially like I see Coach just copying Boston Rob. So he has Edna as like his version of Natalie Tenorelli, where it's just like the person that's going to follow him and do whatever he says. And then Brandon, I feel like, is his Philip in a way. Like he saw Rob have this perceived crazy person, keep him around, and he's kind of doing the same with Brandon. The only difference is somehow Brandon was liked by the jury and Philip was not.
That's just confusing to me. I think it does get brought up. We'll get to it much later, but I do believe Sophie uses that as a reasoning later in like the Brandon's boot episode. So
I've heard them talk after the season about how they thought he would have won.
I'm trying to remember. I don't think I asked Jim about Brandon back then, but I've definitely heard it from other people, so other interviews. So we are going to get to the next episode, and this is where Jim is going to be entertaining the thought of keeping Cochran in the game, and they are going to split Elise and Ozzy after he also forms a 3+2 alliance with Ozzy, Keith, and Whitney and Elise. And then he's like, you know what? Ozzy is getting too close to Elise, which is interesting that he's not doing the same with Whitney and Keith, but I think like he has a better grasp on Keith and Whitney. Obviously, Ozzy is doing some really weird things in the game. So but he goes to Cochran and is like, yeah, if we get Dawn, we can make a survivor move. So again, this is another thing, like this is like some of the stuff Jim does like really holds up well on a rewatch. Like he absolutely should have returned, because there was so much strategy potential with him.
I feel like we just talked about, if Ozzy didn't make the move to go to Redemption Island, Cochran faces Christine, goes home pre-merge, and Christine comes back. I feel like in that scenario, Jim could be the one that comes on Caramoan instead of Cochran, and like have potentially a much bigger legacy depending on how he does there. Agreed.
I would have loved to see it. So yeah, we get that, and then we are gonna get another Upolu loss at the shoulder load challenge. I believe the last time they ever use it, because I believe it, from what I've heard, I think Dawn like broke some of her vertebrae or something in her back. I think on Talking with T-Bird, Dawn had said something about that. But that's just ridiculous. So like, Jim and Brandon are like holding 240 pounds. They break the record, which I never would have expected, looking at Brandon, that he would be able to hold 240 pounds. Like he's small.
But he's also sturdy. Like I think he just has that sturdy frame, like his father and his uncle. Like he just can. I think his shoulders are broad enough where he can just like hold that kind of weight.
Right.
But I was actually more surprised with Jim. I was like, wow, Jim is actually like a big guy. Like he's doing it. Like good for Jim.
Yeah. And I'm surprised Jeff even remembered who Brendan was in Token Teens.
Right.
But yeah, so Dawn wins for Savaii, which is a really great moment for Dawn. And so we'll kind of talk more about Dawn, I think, once we hit like the next episode, I feel like, and the merge. But so this is where basically everybody is against Stacey. And you also get, you know, Stacey and Michaela being super annoyed with Edna, which is pretty funny. Like they're annoyed Edna's asking so many questions about their lives, which is like, I mean, any normal person would ask about their lives, but Edna is like asking a bunch of questions, as is shown. So like I found that funny. But we do get to another tribal council where once again Brandon blows up. Is this where he blows up about Russell being his uncle and like the legacy? Is this what that blow up is about?
Think so.
Yeah.
And the beginning of the episode also has Brandon revealing the alliance of 5 to Edna. And I thought that was a really interesting moment too, because it once again continues this Brandon of like, you know, saying too much at the wrong times, right? And so Edna, this is when Edna kind of starts to get her gears turning, which may have been why she was asking all those questions, is trying to ingratiate herself. But like she's given this information and she doesn't do anything with it, but Brandon is just constantly still like creating drama at tribal. And what was it? Oh, and that's the other tribe. Never mind. I'm good. So Brandon's is blowing shit up.
It just baffles me how Edna literally does nothing throughout the entire game. Like, I feel like maybe that's credit to Coach for keeping Edna so secure somehow. Like, but yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so Stacey's going to get unanimously voted out, and this is where she ignores Coach's hug.
I wrote that down too. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, because I feel like this is the start of Coach's like cult really coming into life, where he's like, everyone get up, let's hug her, and then nothing.
And they all get up, and she's just like, don't touch me, I just grab my torch, I'm leaving, goodbye, good luck. And so Stacey and Christine reignite their friendship on Redemption Island, talking about how much they don't like Benjamin. So let's get into one of the greatest pre-merge moments of all time, the Stacey Powell rant. So I'll just read it off. So Stacey's rant goes like this. What's his name? What was his birth name? It wasn't Coach, it was Benjamin. And you know their children, 26, 22. They're over here listening to all of Benjamin's Halloween jokes, Chucky the Cheese jokes. They want it. He going off loyalty, got them fee. Oh, Benjamin, you so loyalty. Come on now. Every day he got a story. I wasn't buying it. No. So yesterday the tribal was all cahoots. Benjamin, let's give a hug. Keep that hug boop for me because it wasn't real. I love it.
And it seemed like it just came out of nowhere.
Yeah. Well, and I think Stacey was a character that just never got to flourish. Like I think she could have had some really cool moments, but I think which granted she gets this moment, which is phenomenal. But I think it's interesting too, because, you know, when you talk about somebody and you call them Coach or you call them, you know, a specific, you know, title, it does exude respect. Like it's meant to be a respectful thing to say, right? When you talk to the coach, it's Coach, right? And so her whole dynamic is like, I don't need to respect him. He's not my coach. And I love that. And I think it makes a lot of sense for her moment.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I would have liked to see Stacey get more time to shine, but again, I wonder where her and Christine were the first night, because they certainly didn't do themselves any favors. So, also it's cool to see Samotion not as like the final challenge, that it's just like this one-on-one duel. But yeah, so then we're going to get over to the Savaii tribe, because we've basically had Ozzy starts really screwing up, basically tells everybody, tells Jim, is like, yeah, I'm surprised they didn't get rid of Albert, because I would get rid of Albert if I could. And Jim goes right to Keith and uses that to get Keith on board to help split up Ozzy and Elise, which I don't know what Ozzy was thinking. Like, I'm shocked Ozzy would bring this up, considering Ozzy is all about challenges and strength and like,
right.
That's just very shocking to me.
I had a question for you guys because I feel like you guys are. I'm a huge fan of Survivor, like biggest ever fan. But I feel like you guys have more knowledge than I do. Is this the first time we see that ball challenge, where they have to catch the ball and like put it back in? And is that the first time we see it?
Samotion, I believe, was in Token Teens.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was
Okay. I couldn't
the
remember if
final
this was the
team
first time we've seen it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So, basically now all of a sudden everything's in motion to get rid of Elise. And so then we get the most disgusting challenge of all time, the meat eating challenge. We've seen it a couple times, but this is the most disgusting I think it's ever been. And I'm so glad they stopped doing it after this season.
Yeah.
I was eating my dinner when that episode came up in my queue, and I was like, oh, great, another episode of Survivor. And I'm just like eating. And then I just stopped because I'm watching people literally chew meat out of other people's teeth. And I'm like, this is gross. And then what makes it even worse is Cochran goes back and talks about herpes.
Yes.
Why? Gross.
The most disgusting part of it for me is they're literally like spitting into the basket of meat, like barbecue sauce and like spit. And then Jeff's like, you know what? You get to keep the meat you all chewed up as a reward. Like, who is going to take this basket of spit and meat and like cook it up and be like, oh man, that's delicious.
Right.
No thanks. I mean, but if you're okay, what day is this at this point? Day
14.
like 13, 14, something like that, right? Yeah. So I mean, like they've gone 2 weeks with like little food. So I guess like we can't really say like what might have been more appetizing, but like I think I'm gonna stick to the coconuts. I think I'm good.
Yeah, I don't know. This is also where like Michaela's picking it up off the ground. I don't know. Like Michaela was pretty decent at challenges up until her boot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think there was more to it than, oh, Michaela can't shoot a slingshot as to why she's voted out. Coach is just using that as an excuse to get her 100%. Out.
Of course.
Yep. Yeah. She wasn't part of that group, and she wasn't Edna.
Right. Exactly. So, like, I don't know. It's kind of ridiculous, but so then Savaii loses. We also get Savaii like basically breaking teeth, or like Ozzy dislocates his jaw, which is again so happy they got rid of this challenge because you're literally causing your cast to get injuries in their mouth. Like, so yeah, we basically get to tribal, and yeah, Cochran, like they're saying like, why would you talk about herpes, and basically throwing Cochran under the bus. But evidently, it is going to be an Elise blindside after Keith and Whitney also throw their votes on Dawn, which is really, really interesting. Like, I don't really know why they just didn't go along with the plan other than, maybe we can rope Ozzy back in.
Yeah.
But, like,
I think that's what it was. I think it was really just making sure that they could hedge their bet and say, well, we didn't vote for Elise, so like you can still trust us. Keith and Ozzy were super tight at that point.
Yeah, that's true.
I think Keith and Whitney was just unfortunately playing Keith's game, and so I think Whitney was just going to do whatever Keith did. I also love Cochran's quote: "You're not living until you've had a cold sore." So, just know that. So if you've got a cold sore in your life, you've been living.
Yeah. I don't know. And so Elise gets blindsided. I mean, like, again, like, yeah, I understand wanting to get in with like the returning player, but maybe play your own game instead of just throwing all your eggs in that one basket. But yeah, so Christina's going to continue her run, but we need to also talk about Ozzy's reaction to this blindside, because this is where Ozzy throws his hissy fit. We had it in Cook Islands when Cecilia went out, which is a deep pull there, but Ozzy does it again where he gets really mad and hissy about like, oh my God, you guys blindsided me. I hate it. So I'm going to go over here and pout. And like,
and like he says he's a free agent. He reveals he has an idol. It's ridiculous. And like the fact that they come back and rally around him later on in the season, it's after this, is something.
Yeah, I agree. I think it gives me like, I know Coach has like the outward cult going on, but I I think that there's this, and one of the reasons why I don't like returnee players seasons is that there is that kind of like starstruckness with the rest of the cast where it's like, oh, it's Ozzy. Like, I don't want to go against Ozzy. I love Ozzy.
Mhm.
And it's like, no, like Ozzy's gonna end up playing the best game because you don't, deviate from his plans or what he's doing. I did find it funny that Ozzy does have this hissy fit again. But I do think that he kind of turns it around a little bit. He's a little bit less what's the word I want? Like self-centered about it. Like he eventually realizes like he still needs to work with these people, whereas in the past he hasn't always done that. And so I think he is slowly learning how to like socially maneuver the game better. But I don't think necessarily this was like the greatest gameplay, but I think he is starting to realize that like he needs people in the game, and even if they do something different than what he wants, like he can still work with them.
Right. Yeah. How do you guys feel about Dawn? I mean, I guess we're gonna talk more about Dawn again at the merge, but do you guys have any feelings on Dawn at this season and at this point?
Yeah. I mean, this season, like, she's a very interesting character because I feel like she's definitely memorable, and like when you look back, you're like, yeah, I see why she's a returning player. Like, she has potential, but then you ask the question, why? Like, what did she do here that's so great? And there's not much, but she's just memorable for some reason.
Yeah.
I like Dawn because she was very cognizant of things going on in the game, right? She knew that Cochran was on the bottom. She knew that she wanted to, I mean, there's potential, the edit doesn't really show it, but there's potential that she is trying to kind of like be in the middle and try to kind of sway things one way or the other, but she's not like actively doing it. She's just making sure she's good with everybody. And so I think her gameplay was very social. She also has some really strong like hero moments in the game that I think makes it really exciting to root for her. I think she's very rootable.
I agree. Yeah. She does win challenges for Savaii. Like, I think she's very clearly super passionate about Savaii and about the team, and I think that's great. So, So then we're gonna get Upolu losing the slingshot challenge, as coach is gonna blame it on Michaela, and then we are gonna get to another tribal council where again Brandon is gonna blow up once again. I'm trying to remember exactly what this blow up is. This one where he's talking about there is no black and white, there's only black and white, there's no gray or something. I'm trying to remember exactly what this one was about.
I think so. I think it was pre-merge, and this would be his last pre-merge one.
Yeah.
Oh, because he was talking about honor and loyalty and the idea that it's not I told you, Michaela, that I would work with you, and I told you I forgive you, and all that bullshit of nothing she did wrong, right? But he's also saying like, but I like these are my people. These are the people that I said I was going to stick with. So unfortunately, you're getting my vote. Yeah.
So, and he's going to stick to his word with Edna. And then interestingly enough, we do have Sophie and Albert attempting. I think I've read somewhere that they were just trying to, like, in case Michaela did win her way back in, so that she had like people that she could come back to, and so she could fit back in with Upolu. I think I've read somewhere, but it is interesting because Albert does have the voting confessional where he's like, "Come on, Rick, you can vote her out, vote Edna out." So I don't know if maybe that's was Sophie's plan that I've heard, and Albert had like a completely different idea of what he wanted to happen, but as Albert will do in this season. But
this was also the episode where Brandon actively is looking for the idol, and Coach has to kind of finagle and manipulate this idea that like, oh look, I found it, and he's had it for like 3 or 4 episodes at that point. Right. But he looped Brandon in, but ultimately is like lying to Brandon's face through this, but solidifies Brandon allegiance to him at the same time.
Yeah. Yep, they pray to God about finding the idol, which again, the religion here we saw with Matt Alrod last season, and as Shane and I kind of talked about then, I feel like they definitely take that from Redemption Island and magnify it.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I think that's where I start liking Sophie, even more, is like Sophie's kind of doing like the edited eye roll, right? Like she's like, I'll be part of this, but like I don't actually believe any of this.
Yeah, that like Sophie's definitely, just playing along with what's best for her game. And so she knows what's going on. Like that's, again, something I appreciate with Sophie on rewatches that I don't know that it comes across necessarily on initial watches, because you're so focused on Cochran, Brandon, Coach, Ozzy.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I feel like this moment with the idol is very likely how Coach loses Brandon's vote in the end. Because I don't fully know where Brandon's head was on the jury, but I feel like he was definitely leaning Coach. And then, like, when Sophie reveals, oh, this is how the idol was found, like, he's not voting Coach.
Yeah, I totally agree with that too.
And if he lost him other votes, could have lost him the game. Because if he got Brandon's vote, it's 5-4, and if he gets one more, he wins.
Yeah, and I think it was Sophie's big moment at Tribal, just being able to just like sneak it right in there and just say what she needed to say, so that Brandon knew, like, you were duped, buddy.
Yeah. We also get a Rick line finally in 6 episodes where he talks about the one thing he doesn't like about Albert is he snores.
Yeah.
That's it for Rick.
Yeah, Rick does not give much at all.
But yeah, and then let's get to episode 7. So we get the challenge where Cochran ends up messing up the rope, frustrating Ozzy, and you get Coach yelling at his tribe to get on their knees and pray.
I think he exacerbates it way too much. I mean, like, there's this cult mentality, but like it almost is so cringy, because it's like, some of these people were religious and were, did feel that way. I mean, Albert is one of them, and Brandon is another. And this idea of him using that as kind of a social manipulation really started to bother me, because it was like, we know that Coach is just trying to control the group, and it was very, I don't know, it was just super cringy. And then he has this quote where in his confessional he wants to put a bullet in Brandon's head, like Lenny from Of Mice and Men. And I'm like, Coach, no. Like, he just, like, this is where I completely lose Coach, because it's like, you are socially manipulating people with something that's like a real world like belief, and this is something that they value, and you're using it to your advantage, and then you say these like kind of off-cuff things about Brandon, and that bothered me. So I lose Coach in this episode.
Yeah, it's also like Brandon is being completely manipulated all season long as well. You're already having someone who's mentally unstable, and you're completely like, you're not making things better. You're making things a lot worse as the season goes. So I feel like there's times where Brandon, like, I'm not, obviously we've talked about the Michaela stuff, but like, I do feel like there's moments where Brandon wants to try to be a better person, and then he just keeps getting manipulated into going further down.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we are going to get the worst reward of all time, Jack and Jill, which we had Gulliver's Travels a couple seasons ago. Now this is infinitely worse. I also had the misfortune, I think, back in the day of watching Jack and Jill in theaters at one point. That was a mistake.
I think Sophie's sleeping during one of the shots. Like, she's just like curled up, like falling asleep.
Yeah.
Oh, my favorite shot is her looking just deadpan when everybody else is faking laughing. Because Coach has like confirmed that they like played up laughing, like they weren't actually serious about loving the movie.
Well, it's an internal commercial, right? It's just getting other people who are watching Survivor to go see the movie,
right? Yeah. It's ridiculous how they try to make it seem like Jack and Jill is this great message that applies to Survivor, and it's like, what?
Yeah, that was icky CBS.
Yes, now we are gonna get Ozzy's big move. Ozzy says, you know what? I'm gonna hand my idol to Cochran. I'm gonna send myself to Redemption Island, and I'm gonna beat Christine to even up the numbers between both tribes. And once I get back in, and basically we're going to come up with the story that Cochran idled me out of the game, which we'll get to very shortly, how Ozzy's acting performance is pretty terrible.
Very bad.
But what do you guys think of Ozzy's move here? Like, this is Ozzy this is definitely a game-changing move on his part, because it did completely change the trajectory of the season.
Yeah.
So what are you guys' thoughts?
It's strategic thinking, which is new for Ozzy. And yeah, I mean, I think the idea is great. It's risky too. Like everyone I think Ozzy too just assumes, oh yeah, I'll come back. I'm the best at challenges. Like I can beat Christine. So it's risky, and it could have been a much better move, like really game changing, but he just flubs it so bad that the others don't even remotely believe it. Like not even for a second, based on what we see in the edit.
Well, and like, Ozzy, you're not casted because you're a good actor, right? And so, or a good game player, really. Like he's just a very likable character, but he's not like good at the game. And I think he tries so hard here to like manipulate Coach and his group that it comes out so disingenuous. And then the idea that his whole big idea is to save Cochran, but get rid of Christine, who was very clearly anti-Coach's group.
Yep.
So I honestly believe that it was a terrible move, because had he gone home in that move, like his game's over. And he's not even on jury. So I didn't think that it was a good move at all. I think if Christine wins, she comes in and she ends up kind of moving on with Ozzy's group, and potentially she gets further into the game. So I don't know. I think it was a terrible move.
Yeah, looking at it, definitely Christine would have been with Savaii, so it definitely ends up being terrible. I think had they actually executed it better, they still could have made it through with what their plan was, but obviously it wasn't executed well at all, so it completely failed.
Well, and I think it almost turned Cochran even more against Ozzy, because it was like Ozzy was using Cochran's low man on the totem pole piece, right? That he is the person that's going to go home anyway. Nope, I'm going to use this to my advantage, Cochran, so I'm going to save you. And Cochran's like, okay, like, I don't like this. I don't feel comfortable with this. And Cochran's feeling of Ozzy being as cocky as Ozzy was just exacerbated by this moment. And I think it makes Cochran feel even more kind of outside that circle.
Yeah. Absolutely agree. So we're gonna get now Ozzy beats Christine. We get to the merge. We get to Tuna, which is how the coconut came to be. Which, again, not a terrible merge tribe name. So not one of my favorites, but it's not terrible. But now we are going to get to the moment now. We should also bring up, obviously, Ozzy's acting performance is where he talks about like Cochran, the little weasel idled him out, and he's like, I'm coming back for revenge, basically.
Yeah, it's so bad.
Yeah, we are gonna get the merge now, and now it's 6v6 supposedly, but Coach recognizes how bad Ozzy's performance was. Obviously, all of Upolu does. Albert, Sophie, Coach, like they know Ozzy was completely playing it up. Also, probably doesn't help that you have like Dawn and everybody like loudly cheering for Ozzy when he comes back in. You have Coach going up to Cochran and being like, I know you're the low man on the totem pole. Here's the line. You cross it and you'll be part of our Upolu family. And like basically he at one point, I believe it's in the recap episode, but they do like play it in one of the previews, but where Coach says he's Zeus and Cochran's Hercules. And Cochran's confessional. I think Zeus ate his kids or whatever.
Yeah. Does have that line.
I think the episode is set up really interesting too, because it really does give the viewer this feeling of like, what will Cochran do? Keith bullies him almost right in the beginning of the episode. And like there's this still this mentality of Cochran feeling very much on the outside of that group, and Keith is doing no favors, or himself no favors, by making Cochran feel that way, even going into all of this like weirdness. It's like, no, you need to make him feel part of the group, not ostracize him even more. And so I think Keith gets his kind of just desserts in this episode, because he starts, you know, making Cochran feel out of the loop right away. And I think it was a terrible move. This is a social game. Keith's upsetness at the end is just, to me, it's like, well, you did it to yourself.
Yeah, where he's like saying, Cochran, you're so weak at challenges. You need to step it up at challenges. I'm like, why is that relevant at this point?
Right. Individual game now.
Yeah. So we get Ozzy and Dawn winning the coconut challenge, holding up the coconut. And Savaii feels pretty confident now, because now their chances just increased in a rock draw. But now Coach has a conversation with Cochran. And they also say, like, Cochran, we're not going to tell you who we're voting for, but you can just flip with us on the revote. And Cochran has already told them, like, hey, you know, Keith hasn't been really nice to me. So they already know, like, that's probably where they're going. And he does tell them that, like, Ozzy's going to play the idol on Whitney, right? As well. So so they also know, like, they're safe to vote Keith. And so we get to the tribal council, and we do get a tie between Rick and Keith. And then on the revote, Cochran has this big moment. He flips the vote. He tells Savaii he swapped. Ozzy also plays the idol on Whitney. And so then Jim calls him a coward, and like, yeah, Cochran basically gets raked over the coals back at camp. So what are your guys' thoughts on Cochran's move here?
I mean, in hindsight, it's obviously terrible, right? Because we see what happens. But when you're thinking about his perspective on it, like, he doesn't like these people. He's had to deal with them ostracizing him for 19, 20 days, whatever it is. And he knows, like, they're just going to feed him to the wolves, like throw him out to dry if they ever need to, like, split a vote or whatever. Like, he would be the target of the split vote. And best case, like, he's 6th place. Because, like, yes, he could go with Dawn, but eventually maybe, but like, that's not enough, because Ozzy, Keith, Whitney, and Jim are clearly like a 4. Right. Although Jim potentially could have moved too, but that's still 3 on 3. So there's a little room to move there. So you move to Upolu, you're not necessarily, you know, at the bottom, because in any other season besides these like cult seasons, the people on the bottom are going to want to come together and overtake the people on the top. But it seems like he had that thought and didn't realize, like, Coach just had this iron grip on the tribe the way Boston Rob did. And if you come in, you're like, yeah, Boston Rob did it. No one else is going to see that and just do the same thing. They just watched it. And if anyone could do it, it sure as hell ain't Coach, like, from what we've seen. So yeah, it's not, I don't think it's as bad as it is perceived, although the outcome is obviously not good, but it could have gone differently.
Yeah. I debate back and forth with Cochran, because I think his desire to play the game and his knowledge of the game, I think, was also part of this decision, and knowing that if I flip here and I show loyalty to the right people, potentially I can ingratiate myself and move forward into the game. But it was also a lot of Coach. And I think Coach, you know, as much as I'm already done with Coach because of the last episode, but like, Coach does do a really good job of making people feel comfortable and feel safe with him. And he does the same thing with Cochran. And Ozzy just doesn't have that same charisma. Like, Ozzy has different types of charisma, but that's not a charisma he's got. And I think that's where Cochran says, like, okay, does Ozzy take me to the end? No. Could Coach take me to the end? Maybe. So this idea of, like, I'm going to hedge my bets. I'm going to go with the people that I think I could potentially work with. But I also, on the other side, think it was a terrible move, because given what kind of was going on and transpiring at their last tribal with the whole Elise thing, I do think that there were opportunities for Cochran to, work with Whitney and Keith and work with Jim. And Jim had already kind of extended an olive branch earlier in the season. And so I think Cochran was more connected than he thought he was. I just think he was just done with the bullying and done with the feeling like I'm just this weak, player in the game and I'm just never going to win with these people. So I think it was a little bit of both of those things.
Yeah, I'm in the camp of like, I definitely think Cochran should have waited to make a move. Like, I do think get the numbers with Savaii, and then I think try to make the move with Upolu, with whoever's left, because let's say it goes to rocks and you end up losing someone from Upolu, like a Rick got votes. So like Edna, let's say Edna, you still can work with coach at this point. So I think like it's hedging your bets, and like obviously he's gonna piss off his original tribe, so he's already lost jury votes potentially, even if he makes the end. And like again, I guess like he wouldn't know the dynamics that this other tribe is so super close, but also I feel like they also weren't like hiding it either. So I don't know. I definitely think that Cochran made the wrong decision at the wrong time. So but yeah, so we're gonna get back to camp, and we get Jim, you're a poor excuse for a man, don't talk to me, which he just lost $1 million, but also like, yeah, I mean, I think Jim said in his quarantine questionnaire, this is one thing he regrets from his time is like how he reacted. But and then you get Whitney's, you disgust me because Cochran broke up her relationship. Yeah, her romance.
But it's ironic she says that, because a lot of people could say she discussed them. Because, she went in, Jeff even calls it out at the reunion. Like, she went in, I think, married.
Yes. Yeah. I was just going to bring this up, Shane. Yeah. So she went in married, and she ended up cheating on her husband with Keith on the season. And I believe her husband, because he had flown out there for the loved ones visit, she got voted out right before. I believe he was with Brandon's dad, or was it Coach's dad or something? And like Dawn's husband, I think was Dawn's husband, and they had like really bonded, and then he finds out that she cheated on him with Keith. Like, yeah, it's really bad. Like, I don't really like Whitney on this season. Like, I think that's why she doesn't get a great edit, is because they knew she cheated on her husband.
Well, and I think just the comment itself, just from both of them, really, I think Jim was just angry in the moment. But I think just this idea that like, okay, we're going to just keep bullying you despite like knowing full well that the reason why you flipped is because you felt discomfort with us.
Right.
We're going to continue to make you feel uncomfortable so that you continue to vote against us. Like, I think that their emotions just got way too much, ahead of them. I mean, I know that they were going to get pagonged, but like, I think there was ways to like, move forward in the game where it was more respectable rather than just making him feel completely and utterly finally ostracized.
Right. And this is also where Dawn also has like the opportunity to flip with Cochran, but she's so loyal to Savaii that she's not going to do it. I definitely like Dawn, I think, is also trying to ingratiate herself with Upolu, but it's so like plainly obvious that like what she's trying to do, that it doesn't work. So
well, I think she also, this goes back to what I said earlier. I think she was very aware of her surroundings, which is, I think, what makes her a good player, just not an easily editable player. So I think she does try to ingratiate herself in Coach's group, and I think she quickly realizes that nope, they're just so tight. There's really no like piercing this group. So she does stick with the Ozzy group because she knows that they're going to be more protective of her. And so, I think she just was very self-aware of the game, and she just wasn't going to kind of put her loyalty on the line.
Yep. So that happens. We are basically going to get the pagoning of the Savaii tribe now. Jim does try some things. They don't work. So credit to Jim for that. But Savai's going to go home, and now we're left with the final 7 as Ozzy starts his Redemption Island run now. But we are going to get now Cochran is basically completely on the bottom, and Edna sees she's completely on the bottom. So they're the 2 on the bottom. And Cochran pulls out all the stops to try to save himself, basically saying it's my birthday, which that ends up being a curse more often than not, that people get voted out on their birthdays. So I don't think that helps. But we do get this is Albert winning immunity here, and then basically he gives up his spot to Cochran and Coach for the massage, right?
Yep.
So yeah, this is where Coach continues like manipulation now with Cochran and like basically manipulating Cochran. And I feel like at this point, like I understand why Coach doesn't, because I think he sees if he tries something that people are gonna immediately try to snipe him out of the game. And there's still like the Redemption Island variable in the game where Ozzy might come back in. So I understand why Coach isn't making a move, but also like I feel like Coach probably should consider taking Edna and Cochran to the final 3 with him.
Yeah. Because I believe he would have easily won that.
Yeah, 100%. So anything else with Cochran getting taken out here?
I do want to say like the edit was absolutely ridiculous, because with Ozzy being at Redemption, the amount of Ozzy at Redemption film we got in the episodes was kind of embarrassing for the editors. Like, you guys are so obsessed with him that we need to watch him fish 3 times in a season. Like, I don't understand. By himself, alone. Like, it was just him. So like, why are we back at Redemption Island? I don't understand. That's the only time we were ever at Redemption Island without somebody coming in, into Redemption, right? We watch Ozzy fish. Ridiculous. Absolutely embarrassing, CBS.
Yeah, instead of showing us Sophie. Like, it's bad. So Cochran is going to get voted out, sent to Redemption. Ozzy, I do think the editing is kind of funny, where like Cochran's like, do I have a chance against you? Yeah, you have a chance. He doesn't have a chance. Which he then almost wins. Yeah. Like, this was really great. I actually would have laughed really hard if Cochran beat Ozzy in this.
Oh, it would have been great to see, but unfortunately didn't happen.
Yeah.
Also, this is the moment where Jeff calls him cock. Did anybody else catch that?
No,
I did not.
He literally goes, so cock, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, and I rewound it, and I was like, he does say it, because he's dropping the ran, right? The Cochran. And so it was like, he just says cock as a 1-syllable like nickname. And I was like, ooh, that made the edit? That's embarrassing.
Well, Cochran's going to be Jeff's new man crush at this point, because he like loves Cochran. And he obviously, Cochran said at the beginning of the season, he's going to be like the Mariano, the Penner, the Donaldson, where he's going to go by the last name basis. So.
And he does eventually live up to it.
Yes. So we're losing Cochran. We now get to the loved ones coming in, and this is where we get Sean Hantz, Russell's brother, Brandon's dad, and we get Ozzy taking Coach and Brandon with him on the reward. And is it also Albert as well?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is where we get Sean Hantz threatening Coach to work with Brandon. And Coach is like, a chip off the old block, the Hantz family. So not shocked.
Yeah, Dad was not. I think Dad was trying his best to like be a Hantz in this moment. And it was almost, I don't know. It wasn't necessarily cringy because like we expected it, but I don't know. It was like getting like the bargain basement Russell. Like it was just not, it wasn't great. It wasn't exciting to watch.
Right. Yeah. So now this is where Brandon's going to repeatedly stick his smelly foot in his mouth and tell Edna she's going home repeatedly, being like, there's nothing you can do. And like even bullying her basically at the immunity challenge where Coach wins, which is ironic because Brandon is also like trying to stand up for Cochran when like after he gets ostracized back at camp, being like, I hate how Cochran's getting bullied and like then he's bullying Edna. So
yeah, it just shows he's delusional in a lot of ways, and this is one of them.
Yeah.
Well, and it's the narrative of like it's wrong because other people are doing it, but it's fine when I'm doing it. And so I think that's kind of where Brandon starts to really kind of reveal his own like you said, delusion of like how he's playing the game, because he's just doing exactly what he keeps saying he doesn't like other people doing.
So Edna gets voted out. She does get one last dig at Brandon, being like, you came out here to cleanse your family's name, and we were not doing a very good job at it. So...
She had some fun moments.
Yeah, she had the Michaela one as well. Hope this helps your future modeling career or something.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. She had some interesting biting confessionals, but then I don't know. She didn't do much else. She also, again, another person almost beats Ozzy because she almost wins that duel. And like Sophie's like, no way, Edna. Like the preview makes it seem like Edna's going to beat Ozzy, and then it doesn't.
Which I wish she did, but unfortunately, again, no.
Unfortunately, not. Ozzy keeps winning. Well, now we're gonna get to the biggest example of manipulation using religion and everything else, manipulating a mentally unstable person. Which is very unfortunate. I think this is another big reason of how Brandon turns out how he does on the show. But he does win the final 5 immunity. And then basically he prays and he says God told him he should save Albert, because Albert comes up to him and is like, I think I'm going home tonight. And Brandon's like, you're not going home. God told me that I'm going to save you tonight. So then we get to the tribal council and Brandon says, I'm going to give immunity up, to the shock of Jeff and the jury. And then Albert's like, well, I'm not going to give the immunity back because I don't think Brandon's going home tonight. And then Coach is like telling Brandon he's safe. And he's like, he's going to do what God wants him to do. If God wants him to vote Brandon out, he will vote Brandon out. Like, this is all just so much emotional manipulation.
Well, and the way he says it too, like he tells Brandon, I'm going to do what God told me to do. So he's not confirming or denying what he's going to do. It's just that God told me what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do what he told me to do. And he knows it's to vote for Brandon, but Brandon assumes that it's to keep them safe and to keep them together. And it was really hard to watch. Part of me was really like understanding like why there was like a little bit of Albert hate moving forward, through the jury, is this idea that like you took this immunity from him, but like if you feel like it's such a great move and it's such a moment of faith between the two of you, you should give it back. And he like blatantly denies, like, no, I'm not going to do that. I think it really makes Albert look very villainous in this moment. I mean, he's very, very villainous in general, but like, I think that this is the moment where the jury's like, oop, sorry, Albert.
Yeah, along with him being squirrely the entire time, where he's like just, pandering to the jury and basically telling them what they want to hear and then voting them out. So
so what I love about rewatches is like you get kind of like a little bit of a moment of culture in the game and like what life was like 14 years ago. And there was a phrase that kept coming up, and I don't know if you guys caught it, but the phrase was sack up. And I was really getting annoyed by it because it was said a couple of times, and Albert said it, and I think Keith said it at some point in the game, and I finally took a note of it. But this idea of sack up means like be a man. And I found it like really like icky. Like I was like, oh, like when did that become a phrase? Like I don't remember that. But I thought it was interesting because it came up through multiple like male players, and they were saying it in different contexts. And I was like, clearly this was like a phrase back then, but I don't really remember that. So just wanted to kind of throw that out there as like a little bit of a moment of like, oh, that's icky and misogynist, but whatever.
Yeah, I don't recall hearing that, but that is crazy to hear that. So yeah, Brandon's gonna go to redemption. We get Coach saying, "Go find redemption" to him as he goes out. Like, oh my god, yeah, this is bad. And so Brandon goes to face Ozzy. We get the iconic poll challenge that Ozzy is going to win for the second time, and we'll get like kind of a conclusion to that later where he will lose it. But so Brandon gets eliminated. Again, Sophie was saying that Brandon, she wanted the two biggest threats to go to redemption and one of them to get knocked out. So again, you know, this is confirming, I guess, that Brandon apparently was a massive jury threat, which I don't see it at all.
See it, but supposedly, yeah, I don't know how.
Well, I wonder if it was because of the Savaii like connection that he was making. Like, I think he was very good at building relationships with people in this season. Like, Brandon was somebody that I think was relatable to some people in certain aspects of the game. And because of his openness and honesty, I think it did kind of turn Savaii into like a Brandon fan, because Brandon was very willing to like blow up the games of all his other allies. So I think that potentially is what gets the jury to be like, okay, Brandon could easily like sway me to win.
Yeah. So we're gonna get Ozzy coming back in, and Ozzy is gonna win the House of Cards. We have Sophie yelling at Albert to drop his damn stack and help her pick up, which this is interesting. Jeff says it's an individual challenge. You may not help someone. You have to just beat Ozzy. Fast forward to Survivor 46, and Maria's going to get ganged up on, and Jeff says nothing.
Yeah.
So
I feel like, yeah, it's interesting because we've seen like helping before, not to that degree, but in other ways, and they've never stopped it. So it's very interesting, and obviously we know why, because I think they wanted Ozzy at the end. They want like Ozzy and Coach together.
It was not a good moment for Jeff, because I think it really showed how much he wanted Ozzy to get the win or get to the end, and it bothered me so much because part of the game is social manipulation. That's what Sophie was doing. It wasn't any like if Albert chose to drop to let Sophie to help Sophie. Like, why can't that work to her favor? But at the end of the day, I also understand, yes, it's an individual game. But, like, I don't know. I think it was Jeff ingratiating himself into the game, and I didn't like that at all.
I agree. I can agree with that. I guess I didn't like it when it happened in Survivor 46, but I can also see the other side of, like, yeah, Jeff's putting himself in here, and I guess if it happens, like, it will end up happening in Survivor 46. That's just how it goes in the game. So, but yeah, so basically now Ozzy is going to call Sophie a brat at Tribal Council. Basically, this is a big moment for Sophie of like basically her emotions come out, and like I think this is ends up being a good moment for Sophie, also in the eyes of the jury, to kind of show them, like, humanize her, I guess, because they've just been seeing her as really cold and distant and not wanting to like associate herself with them at all. So
I think it's a moment that shows the problem, and I'm going to gender this for a second. The problem with kind of the social dynamics of a game like Survivor is like, if you're a man and you're like super solid and you're like, you know, rah rah rah, like you're promoted, you're a fan of, you know, Jeff's your fan. But then you've got somebody like Sophie who does the same thing, and Christine a couple of seasons later, right? And like just this idea that you know, you are a game player and you're not going to let the emotions affect you in the game, but then because you show emotion, you end up being a target because you're a little too emotional. But then Sophie kind of hits that balance in this episode where it's like, I'm showing a little bit of emotion because there are emotional players on the jury, right? Like you've got Brandon, you've got Dawn, you've got people that are going to feel what Sophie's feeling, and I think it does work in her favor.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, Rick is gonna get voted out. Not
and
much.
He's all pissy about it too.
Yeah. A coach tries to hug him as well.
From Rick here.
Yeah. Coach tries to hug him as well, and Rick's like, "No, sit down."
Yeah, that was fun. It was
So-
almost like he was bringing out his inner Stacey, and I loved every moment of it.
Yeah, I was loving it too. But yeah, Rick Nelson is out of the game. The purple edit of the season. I think from now on we'll definitely track the purple edit of each season.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Sophie has a great line here too, where she says, "I don't think I'm building skin, I'm losing it." And I thought that was a really interesting way of understanding how the game kind of breaks you down. You come in as this, like, I'm going to play this game, I'm going to play it hard, and then you realize that there's all these emotions involved, there's these people involved, and it becomes more gray. Using Brandon's analogy, it becomes more gray as the game moves on, and it's not as black and white as Brandon kind of makes it out to be in his speeches. And so I think she kind of does a really good job of explaining kind of the mental deterioration of the game. And I think this is also part of where we start seeing a little bit more from the public of like, what is how are we helping with mental health and that kind of push in the community.
So then we're going to get to the iconic moment, Sophie's winning moment, which is taking down Ozzy at the challenge that he also won in Cook Islands. So he ends up losing it here because Sophie ends up beating him, and you get this massive moment. Like, Sophie's going to slay the Dragonslayer, and she's going to take out the challenge beast. Like, this is amazing on her part. So
yeah, and you have like all three of them celebrating so much, which is interesting because Coach had gone to Ozzy earlier and was like, yeah, I want to sit at the end with you, and like this kind of shows that was never true.
Right this definitely wasn't true, and I just find it interesting because Coach gets like pissed when Ozzy says it at Tribal Council, and he's like, "How dare you?" I mean, it's funny when Coach throws these hissy fits. He does it when Stacey calls him Benjamin. You have him again here that he's doing it with when Ozzy just says it at Tribal Council. Like, it's really funny.
Well, and also just like it showed the jury too that Coach was doing it to every single person, and including Ozzy. And so you see Edna go home, then you see Brandon go home, and then Rick go home. All these people are people that he had in his back pocket. I hate that phrase, but like, he felt that way in the game, and then they go home one after another. It really does kind of, poison the jury against him, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it.
Yeah. Looking back, I'm pretty happy Sophie won, so yeah, Ozzy is going to get voted out. Evidently, he would have slam dunk unanimously won.
I feel like it wouldn't have been unanimous because like Cochran's not voting him. I don't know if Edna's voting him.
That's true.
He would have won. We'll say that.
He would have won for sure. I definitely think it would have been a vast majority. I agree with you. Cochran probably doesn't vote him, and maybe not Edna, but
I found it funny that the jury clapped for him when he got voted. Like, in not celebration of him getting voted out, but like, to show like his their appreciation of him. I don't believe Ozzy has ever played a good game, and so for me it's kind of like, I don't know why we're clapping for him. Like, all he did was send himself to Redemption Island, and then he got blindsided by somebody and then bullied him. Like, I don't feel good about Ozzy's game like ever, but he is a iconic character. He is really good at the challenges, and I think that he's just somebody that people like to like get behind because he's so engaging as a person. But I don't think he's ever played a good game, unfortunately.
No, and we'll talk more about his like legacy as a whole when we get to Game Changers. But I think this should have been really the conclusion of Ozzy. I didn't need him back for Game Changers or obviously for 50, but I as like a storyline, I think I liked Ozzy's storyline in this season just because it felt like it wrapped up him as a character. But guess it's not the end.
It's not the end.
Yeah, we'll get to that in Game Changers. All right, we get to the final Tribal Council, and so some highlights. Sophie calls Coach a little girl, basically. Just destroys every argument about Coach's game, like she was the mastermind. And like coach is like, well, I'm not strategic. I'm not the mastermind, which is really bad from him.
Oh, yeah.
And then some obviously the other big moment is Brandon versus Albert and Jim versus Albert, because Albert really flubs this tribal council.
Yeah.
So Jim is like, okay, Albert, I'm gonna ask you a question, but if you start it with a compliment, then I'm not gonna give you my vote. Albert immediately goes to, that's a great question, Jim.
Yeah, I think Albert he was too sleazy here, and like he thought he was playing such a great game by buttering up the jury. But like the sleaziness just shone through, because even in the confessionals, he's referring to these people's pawns. He's like, oh yeah, I have a Dawn or a Whitney. Like you're not even calling them people, you're like referring to them as objects. And they all saw through it. And it was kind of similar to how Chase Rice was viewed in Nicaragua, although his final tribal changed a lot of perceptions. Albert did not.
Yeah.
I think Brandon's moment of like yes or no, yes or no, yes or no, like it was like just Albert, just like listen carefully to the question, like just answer the question as it's presented. And I think Albert was trying too hard to circumnavigate what the jury wanted from him, and by doing so he kind of ruined his own game.
Yeah, agreed. All right, well, Sophie is going to pull off, I guess, the upset over Coach, but she did a great job. So as we'll get to with the rankings, I'm sure, but she wins 6-3-0 with Albert getting no votes. So now we've got our rankings. All right, the top 10, as it were. First boots, Tina Wesson, Sonia Christopher, Johnny Fairplay, Sugar, Francesca Redemption Island, Chicken, Wanda, Marisa, Deb, and Diane. That is the top 10 first boots. Semhar did not make the top 10. She is in the bottom 3.
That makes sense. I would agree with that so far.
Yeah, she's above Wendy Jo and Jim Lynch from Guatemala.
I think she had such potential, and it just didn't manifest at all.
Yeah, like on my list, I have her 51 out of 57, so pretty low.
Yeah, I had her 41. I don't know why I had her as high as I did, but honestly, I mean, maybe it was because she bonded with Ozzy. I don't know, but he even voted her out. So. Yeah. All right, then we get our fallen angels. We're gonna add Ozzy to this list as well. So we have Sari, Rob Cesternino, Jerry, Kathy Vio, Rudy, Yowman, Lex, Terry Dietz, Ian Rosenberger, and Johnny Fairplay as our top 10. Ozzy ends up just missing out on the top 10. He is number 11. So
I'm surprised by that, but I'm happily surprised by that, because like I just figured people would rank him higher considering where they rank his Cook Islands game. But yeah, like I put his Fallen Angel game higher than I would have wanted to, because I have him at 20 out of 48, and I wish I could put it lower, but I was like, he kind of has to go there because he easily could have won the challenge. He didn't. And like if he made it to the end, he wins. So it's like you want to put yourself in a winning position, and he kind of did that. I just don't like it.
Yeah. I mean, Ozzy in general just rubs me the wrong way, like every time I see him. So, ranking him, I think I was middle of the road with him. I think it was somewhere in the 20s. He just isn't somebody that I relate to. He's not somebody that I enjoy watching. And so his Fallen Angels game, I think, was just kind of like, yep, I get why he got there, but like I don't really care for him as a person, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's very fair. I still enjoyed meeting him at Over the Edge last year, but just because, meeting Ozzy, but the legend that he is. All right, losing finalists. We're adding Coach and Albert to this. We have our top 10: Boston Rob, All Stars, Parvati, Heroes versus Villains, Russell, Samoa, Steven Fishback, Toganteens, Ozzy, Cook Islands, Colby, Australia, Amanda Kimmel, Micronesia, Kelly Wigglesworth, Borneo, Stephanie LaGrossa, Guatemala, and Russell, Heroes versus Villains is the top 10. Coach ended up as number 13. He is below Amanda and Courtney's China games, so does not make the cut.
Yeah, that's a little low in my opinion, and that's low for Amanda. And like too high for Russell's heroes versus villains because Russell was never going to win, and Coach did have a winning path here.
Yeah,
that's true.
I agree. I think Coach should have been a little bit higher here, but I do think that him being in the teens, I think eventually, like once everything's ranked, I think he's probably going to fall in the right spot. But I think, you know, with the group that's up there already, I'm a little disappointed he got low.
Yeah, because I have him out of 81. I have him number 10, which maybe is a little high, but I just like this game and like how he reinvented himself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Albert, I have on the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah, I had Albert pretty low. He ends up as 25th. He is below Sash in Nicaragua and above Cassandra from Fiji.
Yeah.
Sounds right.
Yeah, I have him at 63 out of 81.
I think Albert's game had potential. I think had Ozzy and Coach not been like the high flying, you know, edits in this season, I think Albert might have gotten a little bit of a better edit. But I just didn't even remember him, to be completely honest. I just remember Sophie being much better than him.
Yeah. And I guess, do we want to bring up like just Coach's Survivor 50 legacy real quick before we hit our last couple of rankings here? What are your guys' thoughts on Coach's legacy going into 50?
I think he's not, I don't know, like it's been so long, so I don't think people are going to view him as like a strategic threat, where if he came back soon after this game, they would have. I think his legacy is going to be more about him as a character. And I think that's actually ultimately going to be good for his chances because they're going to underestimate him and he can come in and play a really strategic game. I don't think he's going to be able to do the cult leader thing. No. So he'll definitely be playing different, but I think he can play equally strategic with an alliance, just not as a cult leader.
Agreed. Mike?
Yeah, I think Coach has kind of a middle of the road path in his next game, and I think for me it's more about him. You know, he's come in with all this knowledge and all of this like he's almost bloated himself up to be the character that he is. I think now is the time for him in his kind of older, wiser, like true kind of Dragonslayer age. I think that he can really kind of show like, I'm here for the love of the game. And if he's there for the love of the game, I think he's going to be very lovable and very likable. And I see him getting at least to merge. I don't see him getting much farther past kind of the merge part.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I do think like he's going to be seen as, oh my God, it's the Dragonslayer. Like, just like, I feel like people aren't going to remember South Pacific, honestly. They're just going to remember that he is this legendary character and they might want to like keep him around because of that, like some of the newer people. So that's my thoughts on where Coach's legacy stands. All right, so let's hit the winner rankings. Top 10, it is Parvati Shallow, Micronesia, Todd Herzog, China, Ewell, Cook Islands, Boston Rob, Redemption Island, Richard Hatch, Borneo, the Sandras, Pearl Islands, and Heroes versus Villains right in a row, Tom Westman, Earl Cole, and Chris Doherty. So that is the top 10. Sophie, for me, I had her kind of lower mid-tier. But she ends up at number 18. She is below Danny Boatwright, above Jenna Maraska.
Below Danny Boatwright? That's not good.
Yeah, I feel like she's a better winner than Danny. But
oh yeah. Yeah, I have her number 30 out of 48, which it seems low, but then when I look at everyone above her, like I can't move her. So I think it's just there's a lot of good winners. And this isn't to say she's like bottom tier or anything. She's a solid winner. It's just there's a lot of really good winners.
Right.
I ranked her high, clearly. I just felt I really love the under the radar social strategic players. And so for me, I think that Sophie embodies like a true winner of Survivor, right? Like she didn't make like these big bold statements. She didn't like go out of her way to make herself any sort of like major target or character. And I like that and I respect that about her game. And so I that's why I ranked her higher than most.
That makes sense. I do think Sophie improves because of Winners of War. So,
Yeah.
All right, season rankings. Top 10, Heroes versus Villains, Micronesia, Pearl Islands, China, Borneo, Cook Islands, Australian Outback, Tocantins, Marquesas, and Amazon. South Pacific lands right with the other Dark Age seasons. It is at number 21. It is above Redemption Island in Nicaragua, below Fiji. So,
yeah, I have it 28 out of 48. Like, not my least favorite by any means. It's just not my favorite.
Yeah, I have it the highest of the Dark Age seasons, but that's just because of the personal connection with Jim. But
I think for me, the Dark Age seasons were not great because of the direction that they went with the returning players. And I think, number one, I think it's problematic that both Redemption Island seasons were all male returners. I didn't like that. Like, I was really hoping for a female return, at least one of them being a female returner in this season. But I think that, you know, the idea that Coach and Ozzy were kind of brought back as, you know, they needed redemption, or they needed to, like, you know, fix their image or whatever it was, to me was just like, eh. So I definitely scored it low. I want to say it was in like the low 30s. If not 40. But yeah, it was not, but it was not indicative of the winner. I love the winner. I just didn't like the whole setup of the season. I don't like the Redemption Island seasons. I don't like returning seasons, except Blood versus Water. That's the only returning season that I really, really enjoyed.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just feel like they saw Redemption Island, decided to do the same thing basically over again, and then somehow, like, it literally page for page, word for word, ended up very, very similar, oddly enough. And so I just feel like that's in the setup of the season. All right, favorite male and female. Favorite male, no surprise, I'm going Jim Rice. I just feel like I have to keep with my personal connection there. And again, I feel like he had potential. I voted for him on the second chance ballot. I wish he actually came back. And then female, I will go with Sophie, because I feel like the options were kind of limited here. And I feel like Sophie did a really good job she knew her path to the end was to go with Coach and just be like the, I guess in a way, good cop to his bad cop, of like, she knew she could play with him and kind of set him up to be the fall guy, and like that his delusional entitlement and like how he played the game was going to catch up to him eventually. So I think Sophie's strategy was absolutely deliberate. So
no, I agree with that. So yeah, for female, I would also say Sophie, for many of the reasons you stated. Like, she's definitely, like, people can criticize her game, but she was very deliberate, in my opinion, with everything she did, and she knew what she needed to do to win. And like, she's not trying to play up some TV character and get all the screen time. She's trying to win the game, which I appreciate a lot. And favorite male, like, I want to say Cochran, but it was Coach here. Like, I just went in like with such low expectations for Coach, and to see what he did, I'm like, I have to root for that. So yeah, Coach and Sophie.
Yeah, Mike.
Shocker, I'm gonna say Sophie. Sophie is again one of my favorite winners. I love the way she strategizes, kind of more behind the scenes. I think she wasn't there to be on TV. She was there to win the game, and I love every moment of how she did it. For male, I think it's a little bit harder for me. I think for me, it has to be Cochran. I think I saw myself as Cochran at that time. Like, I think I was in my late 20s at that point. And so for me, it was like, okay, this is the guy that, like, is me. Like, I'm the nerd. I'm the person that, you know, people kind of underestimate, and I'm not super athletic. And like, he was one of the reasons why I was like, I could potentially do this show. Like, I could be on Survivor. And I think Cochran just made me feel like it didn't matter how awkward he was. It didn't matter. Like, he was going to play the game because he just enjoyed being there. And he was, you know, that was his moment, and he got a second chance, but like, he knew that this was his moment, and he was going to play it the way he needed to play it.
Right. Agreed completely. All right. How did this season contribute to the evolution of Survivor as we know it?
It's actually a hard one, I feel like. I mean, it's the origin story for Cochran, and Cochran is going to become a legend of the game. I think it cements Ozzy and Coach as legends, because I don't think either of them coming in were legends, so to speak. So it definitely does a lot for their legacies. And it kind of, like, with Sophie's winning game style, like, it kind of lays the groundwork for how to win in the new era, which isn't going to come for 20 some, or yeah, a little under 20 seasons from now. But I feel like a lot of new era winners play a Sophie-esque game.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was gonna target in my answer. Is Sophie is one of the first, like, and I say this in a very light way, deserving winner that didn't get a strong edit. And I think she really, flipped the script on, like, how you can win without being devious, without being like, but still playing the game and still being strategic. I also think that potentially that this kind of starts the gears turning on this final four fire making, because Ozzy is so loved by Jeff that, this is a devastating loss in the Survivor, mythos, right? That Ozzy loses at final four simply because he's the biggest threat and the three of them vote him out. So does this then spark the conversations of, do we tweak the final four so that that person potentially has the opportunity to get to the end? We don't see that for 10 some odd seasons, but like this potentially is one of those moments that sparks that conversation.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think it's 100% like how you can use returning players to your advantage if you're a new player. Like, I think Sophie does it pretty well in that regard. I do think, like, the use of religion, I think it's another time that Survivor brings up something from the real world and kind of weaves it into its narrative and theme of the season, which this definitely what made it uncomfortable, for sure. And Survivor will have a lot of other uncomfortable moments that get brought up as, like, the microcosm of society that it gets referred to as, and changing with the times. And so I do think that's probably how it affects things. And I think like kind of allows them to kind of test Redemption Island out again and realize that it's best used when they kind of use it how they did in Blood versus Water. Like, that it's used when people know each other and kind of adds the other layer to it that is needed. So
I'm going to add on to something you said really quick too. So the idea that Coach, I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right, he's the first returner to ever lose. So like it's the first season.
Stephanie.
Oh, Stephanie. I forgot about Stephanie.
Yeah, I forgot for a second too. I was
I guess like I feel that's such a weird like returning season. But yeah, I always forget that's a returning season. That's fair. Stephanie loses. But I think okay. I'm gonna retract my statement then.
No, you're good.
Unfortunately, Coach loses, but like I do think that this also shows that like it doesn't matter if you're returnee, like non-returnees can still win the game and win it well.
Yeah, I agree, because like I don't think anybody was really saying it after Guatemala. I don't think we brought that up in the Guatemala podcast, and like here we are saying like Sophie proved that it can be done. So all right, that is South Pacific. We're almost out of the Dark Ages. Well, I guess technically you could say the Dark Ages kind of extend throughout this era, but I would say like this next upcoming season is kind of where the Dark Ages supposedly like end in a way, because we're talking about One World next week. We're talking about Kim Spradlin and one of the most dominant games ever, all around, all across the board. And we're also excited because Shane and I had the pleasure of talking with Troyzan as well. So we will have a Troyzan interview dropping next week. And he was great. So I would highly recommend checking that one out.
He talks about it a lot. I think it's an hour long.
Yeah, hour long. So yeah, very excited to kind of talk about One World. I believe it is Ryan Gold, Coach Drew, and Jonathan But yeah, we'll have one world out next week, so stay tuned for that, and we'll see you all next time for more Survivor 1 through 50 on the Tribe of Nerds.